testing. How we sound? Pretty good. Today, we're going after one of my least favorite parts, especially on a bike that has loose bearings, which, judging by everything else on this bike, it's probably loose bearings in here. And they're the most difficult parts to work with, and it's also the least important. There are bearings here and here that, just like all the other bearings on this, allow things to move smoothly, where they're just in contact with those bearings. You got the centerpiece going down the middle that's touching the inside of the bearings, and the outside of the bearings is touching this cup right here. And just like all our other ones, we have a pair of them. There's one set of bearings here and one set here, and those are what allow this to move back and forth smoothly. And honestly, this is moving smooth enough. It barely needs to be done. Mostly for completionists' sake. Okay. So far, just using that little bit of simple green with the scrub pad to get the surface a little bit to rust and dry. The one that you can take off. Getting them repositioned is surprisingly annoying. Yeah, these are our shifters for our derailleurs. Traction shifters, so they just move smoothly all the way forward and back. And you just move it until you feel it. There's not. The other option is index. If you're on a mountain bike and you have the quickie ones. That clicking is index. I am not a fan of it because it is very easy for it to get knocked out of position. Of course, all of this seems to be metric. Not metric, imperial. So this bolt right here, it keeps your handlebars in place. And the way it attaches, really interesting and unique. This bolt is actually attached to a wedge down here. And when you tighten this, it pulls that wedge up and locks it in place. loosen it up a little bit. Sure, these are pretty rusted together at this point. Let's just move it. There we go. Testing, I can hear everything all right. So we can see now that tapped down, this all rotates and moves around. I believe this is just the lock ring for the bearings. Like all the other ones you have, a piece below it. The cone that we saw on the wheels, or just the cup in the bottom bracket. And that's the piece that you do the real fine adjustment on, or that the bearings aren't grinding, but it can move freely without grinding. I believe this is my lock nut for the top piece. So it shouldn't be getting in the way of the parts, but oh, it's an interesting better. That's good. So the way this one works right here, when you tighten that bolt, it pulls this wedge up into here, spreads it out, and stops the handlebars. A couple different ways that can work. They all work. That looks really nice and they actually did that. Did actually come open, and it does look like the people who tuned it up before. The only place they really seem to have given up was the bottom. Hammer that quite a bit. It's not really what you want to do. Honestly, even if I had the proper tool, I'm not sure how it's supposed to actually work. I think the hammer and screwdriver is actually probably the best way to go. Center pull brakes, we'll come back to brakes. Are the other most cursed piece of these old ones. Getting all these little bits disintegrated. Looking pretty funky as you get the bite. So that had two. But here's the head, or sometimes I might accidentally call it the neck because neck is purple. But a lot of times when you get in here and take a look at this piece, like I did on the Schwinn, it is a rust horror show. So, the thing that makes this so tedious, honestly, I'm just going to use my hand and remove the chain. Because what's going to happen, this right here has loose bearings, and this right here has loose bearings. When this comes out, there's nothing holding these in. So I'm going to try doing it a bit reverse of what I've always wanted to do. I always want to do the bottom ones first and then the top. We're going to do the top first and then the bottom this time. I think as you loosen this, the bottom is just open. Let's see. Clean up the brakes a touch while I'm here. One thing I do want to try to add, I'd like to swap out these springs. The springs on this are a bit more rusted. Almost rusted spots on the bike, actually. Right here. I don't care for that. Those are very, very functional pieces. I don't like them having that much rust on them. Let's see. Pretty standard size and component. I'm hoping I can just get a different pair to drop in there. Like the bolts up here are having some rust on the face. It's not great, but it's not a problem. I'm gonna remove that for aesthetic reasons. These guys though. So, loosening the top. As that loosens, this bottom is going to start to pull away. There we go. Now I can see there's a couple little bearings. And these are so dry that they are just normally, these are one of the pieces. One of the spots. Because if you have a there's that little grease dry. long, skinny little piece of metal. Sweetheart, could you bring me a stack of the magnets from my desk?
About to blow up and start that. So,
Never done that before, but as much as I possibly. Interesting how they tried to like magnetize. It's good to know that they are. Let's scour around for missing ones. I think it was just those two. Something else that's nice about this stage when they're dirty, they have so much funk on them that they don't really roll very far. Magnet ideas. So smart of it. Lost one or two, but honestly, that is the least amount of these. Ah, damn it. So yeah, these are the tiniest bearings in the bike by a mile. Most inconvenient place. There you are, hiding in that top rim. And just to add insult to injury, they're the bearings that matter the least. Seems to be everything. So now when I take this off, pull neck, pops right off. Go. We're going to clean up the head on there first. Everything. hands up. So this is what we're working on first. You can see there's a decent amount. The grease kind of gets condensed and builds up over time. That's what I think is happening in that bottom bracket, because especially down there where you have that much weight pushing on those bearings and grease, you get some buildups that you kind of just have to go in with like a chunk of metal and force them out and just do your best to not harm anything else. This grease up here, that did look like it was 40-year-old grease. Stuff in the front and rear wheel did not look old. So I think the old tune-up also did skip this part. I don't blame them. A little bit so far. This really only moves when you're turning a little bit, so like the amount of friction you can actually lose here is so minimal. We're going for 100% on completion on this plate. And this one actually, you can see, actually I'm gonna leave this here. There's some of that grease buildup that gets really hard. So I just went over this with the scour pad already, and that's still just sitting there. And that's what we're getting out of there. I guess it's even a little outside the path of the bearings, but what I'm hoping is the bits that are in the bottom bracket, I highly suspect that that far side that I couldn't get out has a little bit of that in there, and that's what I was feeling when I was adjusting it. Might work too. There we go. Ew. That's what's coming off out of there. Ew. Shit, this doesn't actually seem super hard. It seems like it's more just kind of faced back into a crevice. There's a little funk in the badge spot up front too. Really pretty looking badge up here. Try to clean that out a little. Here we go. It came out real nice. All right. I think that's looking good. Wow. Let's see. Camera a little bit there. I'm spraying vertically to scrub upward into this cup. Like Luke. Trying to clean up that weird spot on R2. Knife, he's sitting there all jamming it in. There we go. Yeah, scouring pad got nothing. A little bit of metal though. That is hard enough to take care of it. I do not have a way I could get the camera down in here at the same time. I don't think. That's what we get. A couple things to clean up here. Some bike chain. I'm gonna run the bike chain through one of these. This was soaking overnight. And judging by the color of the simple green, it left a lot of gunk in there. And we'll re-grease this. Bike chains get their own lubricant. It's different from the grease you put on. We'll do that. And I start putting the chain back on to adjust the derailleurs. This is my preferred way of cleaning a chain. Just have it at an angle as you're pulling it through there. That makes the joints kind of flex around so you can get it a little better. Yeah, this guy, it wasn't too funky. Chains are also one of those things that cost about $12 and are pretty dang important. So if you're unsure if you should replace a chain, the answer is probably just yes. But this chain, I'd be surprised if this chain has 20 miles on it. And this is definitely just 5 years old. This is not a 1940s original. This is what I still get at the bike shop when I go down there. There we go. There's our chain, all nice and clean. All right, here. This guy is the cup, where all those teeny tiny little bearings sit. I'm actually gonna hit that with a paper towel first and get the bulk of it. So, I remember when my first bike, I'd wanted to remove that piece to clean it. And we needed a whole special tool to tamp it on and off of there. It just wasn't worth it because you can't just clean it a bit on the bike. This evidently didn't need that, so he's gonna go in the simple green. Scour pad. This whole chunk in the middle is just completely inconsequential. All of this does nothing except create space. I'm here and those are soaking though. Let's treat this rust a little bit. This really works some wonders. Those other rusty spots. There's my spring for running away from this. We're gonna reassemble. I took this off. This is the kind of tool that not a tool in a professional sense. It's a tool in the primate sense of a thing to do a thing. But a little pokey guy is really helpful for chasing those bearings out and around. There are a couple times where I really like it. I need to pick up a nice broken spoke somewhere because spokes are even smaller than this. Really handy for applying some force. Small area that is just kind of garbage. Just throw broken spokes away so you can keep them. There's some deep rocks. So that one improved a bit. I think I am just gonna sand these a little. Right on the front of the bike. Yeah, you know what? It barely needs it. And plus a little bit. And that came off so easy with this almost tempted pieces. Let's see how shiny it's still. I don't need these bolts to be shiny. I think, I'm not sure if you can hear it. There is an actual sound that's over this top. There's no doubt. Yeah, and those are still shiny. You can see my reflection. All right, so that's a really good sign for some of those other pieces too. I did want to go after some of the more kind of pock marks of rust on the other pieces out of fear of damaging the finish. But it looks like until like that, it gets the rust and does not damage them. We might be going back and touching those out. Why is that so far out? There is a much bigger gap there than there should be. Let's This whole side of it is funky. The nut is missing. So that... Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, so there's a nut on this side where it's supposed to be. This does not have the nut that holds all this together. Well, that's a problem for brake day. Actually, I need it. That's an issue. That's my cantilevers and a got a number of things. Like the plan for today, my cabling gets here in time. I'm gonna pull the cabling off, and I'll walk through that process with you in a minute, provided we can. And then run down and do my shopping for the spike this afternoon. I need tubing for the cables. I need fresh tires, cables, brake pads. These are the original 1970 something brake pads that they are crap. I need them to remove the set. I need a master link. I evidently need a nut for the cantilever. And like a broken spoke. Other than that, this is looking pretty good. I was wondering if this guy up here would need to be replaced. I'm gonna give him the liquid wrench. This is a good anti-rust thing. Hello? There we go. Give that guy just a little bit of rust protection. Looking okay, but very old piece of iron cable. It is crazy. And actually the nut that's missing too. This side is actually sandwiched underneath the other one. So it can't come off. But that is wild. Wonder who's fault. Now I'm gonna stick with just one glove because getting a glove in there really sucked. I have a hand just kind of gently hold. And my gloved hand can do the hard work. This is again one of the cups. That whole groove right in there is where the bearings are gonna rest. It is important to get this all cleaned up. You know, once, it's not a terribly important piece, but once every 40 years, a pretty reasonable maintenance plan. Yeah. And there again, this inside edge. See if I can get this focused. All that scoring and funk right there. That is just the stuff you get from the grease where it really compacts down and gets hard. We don't want that. We need a little bit of metal. Not much pressure. It's just harder than the scouring pad. Don't want to damage. You want this whole surface in there to be really smooth. Do not want to, like, score it. Okay, soak for a little bit. This has, like, no contact with the bearings. So you can see it is just shiny and stuff. With a little bit of rust because this is an exterior out there hanging out in the elements. You know what? This is a good spot to test too. This has the same kind of finish as the cranks, and that same kind of little pock marks of rust hanging out. We'll see. Yeah, just texture-wise, I can feel where the rust is and when it goes away. And I'm just barely touching this. Oh, I think I can manage to get the rust without actually damaging. That nice shiny chrome finish. That spot might be a little bigger. Feels like it's more of a ding. Okay. Alright, so there we go. We got most of that cleaned up. See if it looks any less shiny. Very shiny. Mirror-like. I think I can see a little scratching. Really, really squint. I'm not sure that's me though. Because that's right at the spot. That's the little divot that I hit. And I was like, alright, I don't want to push there. There are a couple scratches right next to that. I think this guy had a little trauma in their life. This down here is where I was working. No, it's looking great. Alright, let's go. Super gentle, not like sanding a piece of wood. You're like trying to take the surface off. Looking for those little spots that are hanging out on top. Oh, and yeah, there's no finish on the inside of that bend either. That is really promising. Does unfortunately mean I'm going to want to revisit all of those spots on like the cranks that have that same kind of rust. I was a little skeptical about going after. But this is also insanely easy to remove. One day I'm going to start doing... Oh, I really want to start promoting. Do some TikTok videos of before and after. I think some of these rusty spots will do well for that. There we go. That looks beautiful though. I'll wipe the inside ones for fun. think, yes, this is the piece we haven't gotten to yet. And this is the one on top. You can kind of see too, it actually looks a little better. There's a lot less pressure upwards on the bearings. So there's, let me see. Let me get a full loop and then show. So that other piece, when we got to this point, there was a whole bunch of like built up caked in grease. There's none of that here. And I'm pretty sure that's because there isn't pressure here. Those bearings aren't pushing down with the weight of the whole bike and compacting that grease. It's just loose. It's just kind of in contact and stopping the bearings from running away. Alright. He looks great. You should be in a good shape at this point. This is that first piece we worked on. It had the really built up. Yeah, there's still a little bit in there. See if we can get that out. But yeah, I'm hoping with just a couple miles on this guy, having some fresh grease in there will help loosen up. Little bits of buildup on that far cup in the bottom bracket. And if not, I might just replace all the bearings too. I am suspicious that someone might have just damaged the bearings by trying to ride it in the horrendous state it was in. I'm starting to actually have a little bit of a theory that that bottom bracket has been poorly adjusted since it came out of the factory. Because it was tightened all the way down. Like it was just binding up the bearings. And this bike has no miles on it. I'll show you something. This seat is the original. That is a 45-year-old bike seat. That is not seen 10 miles. Right, I don't think. That is brand freaking new. So I think they might have actually just messed up when they manufactured this. Whoever was assembling the bottom bracket did a bad job. And no one has actually been able to really ride it because of that. I'm gonna do bearings and get them in here. These are the most annoying bearings. You just kind of like stick to things. Oh wait, we're stuck to something. There it is. Stuck itself to the bottom. You know what I can do. Alright, this is going to become a standard part of. Especially with bearings that small. So easy. Did miss one piece. This is just a washer. Looks like it's aluminum. Surface of aluminum, I think some of it we talked about before. Aluminum is exposed to the air, it oxidizes. And its oxidizing kind of stops further oxidizing. But if you are adding, aluminum is Al2O3, so for each aluminum atom, adding 3 oxygens. So each little bit of aluminum that oxidizes is gonna get a bit bigger. A bit of a bump. I think that's where too, like, the feel of your fingernails on that, like, especially like the inside of you have like apartment mailboxes If they're aluminum and it's just the worst feeling in the world on your fingernails. Versus like this, I think is like chrome plated or something. I need to learn more about it intelligently. That muck is magnetized to it. No, that's not. Looked like it was. Also, next time, if I cover the magnet in the cloth, I could just kind of like flip it around. Pull the bearings off of it. That was not nearly as annoying as I expected it to be. There we go. All my bearings down there in that little sack, and you just massage the sack. Grind them around, and that helps get any little bits of grease and dirt that have caked on there. All right. Take an inventory of these guys now. See if we have a nice even number. There's some bits of line here. Those for a second. Let me do this again. I think the magnets will help gather less other debris if I were to try to pull it. I'm going to try this trick again too. So I'm going to take the magnet, embed it in this. Just where that stick just joined into the magnet. Yeah, and those look a bit funky. I'm gonna flip that back around. All the bearings are on this side, tucked into a nice little pocket. Exactly like I hoped it would. All right. There we go. Hit them with a bit of fresh, copious amount of simple green. We're gonna massage a little more thoroughly. There were a couple of those that still had. A simple green might have its useful life. Yeah, they're looking good. That looks promising. Yeah. Okay. Like one little bastard in here. That's pretty dirty. Let's try and break these apart into equal groups too. See. At least if I missed one, I'll be able to tell. If I lost two of them, maybe I'll have time. Should be able to feel it, but just doing 5. Instead of trying to count tiny little things. Ooh. That was a perfectly even split, and it's a nice number too. 5, 10, 15. Okay. That one has 4. 1 for 5, 1 for 5, 1 for 5. Oh, this one just had 1 extra. So that's 25. That's also 25. So, this is looking promising. I do not think that... Now for the assembly, this guy fits up onto that part right there. Actually, I think that's the part I... Okay. So yeah, so this is going to drop back onto the fork. Pair of cups that fit on there. And then the top one, there's a little cup up there that this cinches down on top of. That's our lock ring. That, I think, just went between there for some reason. Okay. I think we're good to resume. So this piece goes down here. It's at the very bottom, as far down as it goes. So that's going to be a joint with those two. Top one here. And actually grab some zip ties to hold this up. So my plan, what I've always done historically, for some reason, assemble the bottom one first, and then I'm trying to assemble the top one while this is trying to fall apart. It's annoying. So I'm actually going to hold this up first, assemble the top bearings, some of the top bearings, then that'll settle down, and I can just put those together in a good time.
It's Paul Remus again, still not legally a guru. And on the galactic line, we have Debbie.
Hey, hon.
Welcome. Welcome to the show. Today we have a special offer, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, some might say. From the makers of Now You, the revolutionary life hack that brought you instant transformation, comes the next big thing in personal evolution.
What's the next big thing?
Are you tired of feeling tense?
Velcro strap for this because it's reusable. We'll see if it's possible. Can't actually be rotated this whole way. Very skeptical about this thing's ability to hold right there. We'll see. Good okay now, and it's not really that catastrophic. This is one of those spots where I'd really like these gloves. It's just so tactile. I'd like that to be more.
Guess who forgot to reincarnate on time? It's
Necessary.
Paul Remus here.
If Velcro does
Tired of
fail,
waiting
this
for
means
your
that
dream
fork is
life
going to fall
to
towards my
start?
feet,
Are you
which is not
stuck in
good.
the eternal loop of one day I'll
be
be who
gentle.
I'm meant to be? Well, not anymore, friend. Introducing Now You, the revolutionary life hack they don't want you to know about. With Now You, you don't have to
What
wait
the
for the
hell
stars
is-
to align, your chakras to open, or Mercury to stop retrograding. You
What?
can be who you want to be. Right? Flipping now. Just 4 easy payments of $9.99. That's right, less than the price of a
Lo-fi, it's not. Or if it's an ironic. This guy I'm a little less concerned about super packing. I'm actually going to put the grease in now for the bottom. I'm not going to put the bearings in, because putting the grease in with a good angle will be a lot easier. I want it to be down in that crease. I'm not going to do the actual bearings in there for a minute yet. This on. Now, this is the really annoying point, because these bearings no longer have those residual bits of grease that will stop them from rolling away if they fall. Once they're in there, they do. If I drop one before it gets in there, bad time. Still the ingredient put for. There we go. 25 bearings. I'm going to put some grease in this top cup too. Which in retrospect, I kind of wish I did in the bottom one. I do that still now. Let's tighten this guy down. Do the Velcro. It feels really nice rotating up there, so I think we're good. I don't think we lost any bearings or anything. A little bit of grease that'll work its way around on top of them. Now, this bottom one is the one that historically sucks. I think the way that I've done this cup should make it a little more friendly. Also nice that spot's a little bare. I'm gonna go the other way first. Because nestling these into the grease keeps them in place a little better. Brake starts to get in the way a bit. Yeah. go. They're not all completely flat, but I think they will be. I'm going to tighten this down. Tightening this top nut is slowly raising the whole fork up into the neck. Once it is enclosed around those bearings, you're in a relatively spot. Ooh, yeah, so that Schwinn up there has cartridge bearings. So instead of 25 loose little beads, they're all embedded in like a metal ring. It's a little worse for friction. Not my favorite, but it made doing this whole chunk of the bike incredibly simple. My other bikes that have this, I have actively avoided. Redoing this, because you don't really need to. Again, like your pedals, every time that pedal goes around, those bearings are moving, and that's friction the entire way. Same thing for your both of your wheels. The entire time, they are in full motion. All of that friction matters. This, at most, when you're riding in straight lines, is going to wiggle. When you turn, that's all the movement you get. So this could have quite a bit of friction, and it really wouldn't matter. But now, the same idea as adjusting all of our other sets. We need to adjust this such that there's no wiggle, but also not so tight that it's binding up. And I think just a hair back from what we've done. I loosened it up significantly. Yeah, there's the wiggle. Okay. I want to make sure I knew what the wiggle felt like on here, so that I wasn't ignoring it because I couldn't tell what it felt. Washer. You know, the threads on this bike do not feel amazing. They just don't like this. Sorry. Okay, and so when I tightened that down, it cinched this a bit more, and now this feels really bad. So, that is very often the case with those lock rings. When you whale them on a little bit, they will tighten your cup, your adjustable piece. Just gonna back that off. Still feels good. Feels great. Hard to tell if there's a wobble. think it's a touch of wall. Let's be picky. To those. Bears touches. Rotating like 3 minutes on the out. Couple dudes. Don't know what that is already. Nope, too tight. Sensitive these were. I think it's moving this a lot. The thing is, I don't have a cone wrench to stop the bottom piece from rotating. That's the thing, even if I try to hold that there. Oh. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. Just vibes at this point. I don't think it's even gonna actually adjust the same way every time. That time, it barely moved the bottom right hand. Inched it down. So I have a ton of wobble. I wonder. Tighter. Right. Oh. Alright. It's actually tighter. Plus last time. Ooh. Smooth. Could be a touch smoother, I think. Oh, I never started my splits. Invalid run. These shows anyone. Got 3 hours missing all the time. Quite a stomach. I do want to go a little bit smoother. Feels nice. But not. And that just moved so much. And it is, and sometimes it just moves the whole damn thing. And I don't have a wrench big enough to hold it. Oh, there is no wobble, and that feels excellent. We're on it. Excellent. Yep. That is good. Okay. Now we're gonna put this back on. Right? Anything else I want to do? Handlebars on. Oh, the front wheel goes on here to help get it perfectly straight. We are putting the handlebars on. It can be God damn it. Forgot a piece. This guy needs to go in down there with the washer. Oh well. I think this will actually help with the adjustment too. I put that there. It is going to act to stop the nut from turning this down here. So I think this will actually make my life a bit easier. Get it adjusted properly. Let's see how this goes. One thing that's tough here, once the wheel's on, you've got a bit more mass on there, so you can't feel the small amounts of friction as much. Same thing like with the pedals. When I'm holding that axle that is just bare steel with greasy ends, I can really feel any change at all in the friction of it. You have that weight on there, I can actually take it off. See how it feels. Yeah, because with that off, I can feel that little bit of friction a lot better. Can't forget to put this piece on twice. And the wheel's really nice, keeping the fork from moving. Fork is connected to this whole tube that I'm actually threading it with. pretty good. I think it could be a touch better. Yeah, no wobble. It is just the very, very slightest bit over. Be really picky to. I'm gonna do it. 'Cause you know what? It is adjusting in a way that makes sense. Now that this piece is on there. I'm gonna go ahead and be picky. That feels beautiful. And no wobble. Yep. That's fine. Brakes still suck. And I haven't true. So I like to put these in pretty close to their max height, which this doesn't have. So, oh well. Does have a little lip on there. Again, the way this one's working is pulling that wedge up into a very thin, little, flexible little tube. As it does, it spreads out that tube, which wedges it in the tube of the fork, in the neck tube. There we go. Just started to spread enough to make contact. Wedge it up in there a bit. Tight. Keeps your wheel from going around. Also, the whole time I'm doing this, I have the wheel between my legs, hanging out right over the top of this, keeping it centered. Because you could put your handlebars on at a 90-degree angle. Like there's any angle in here will have. Nothing will stop us from not doing that. That's lining it up. And if you do have to readjust that, then you loosen this up, ½ inch or so, tap it down with a hammer. There you go. But yeah, you don't want to loosen this bolt until it completely releases, because that drops whatever that chunk of anchor is. In my case, it's a little wedge. There's some sort of wedge guy in there that's connected to this bolt. When you want to be careful, you don't pull that off all the way. I think my cable cutters were supposed to get here and Amazon was incompetent, so let me see if that is the case. If I think I have something else I might be able to use for that. I'm gonna walk through decabling. So now what we're going to do is go through and remove all of these cables. So we have 4 cables in total, separate cables. This is the left-hand one, so this just runs up, around, down into our front brake. This guy right here. The right cable runs around to the rear brake, down there. On this back side, comes right along here, pops up here again, comes back down to rear brakes. The other two, we have a rear derailleur. Cable runs all along here, there, up to here. So it's a rear shifter. Also, one thing bikes always follow: right is rear. Rear brake is on the right side, rear derailleur is on the right side. Left, this is our front derailleur. He runs down here, round and up. Now there are a couple pieces of housing right here. So this is going to be one of the things I'm getting replaced at the bike shop. And a really important thing with this, when you're getting those replaced, save this housing. That is the exact length you're going to want when you're replacing it. There are also generally some little end pieces. See what that looks like on here. I think they might just be built in a little bit more. We'll see. But I'm going to cut these cables off, but I'm going to go out of my way to make sure I'm saving that housing. It's also slightly different housing. This one with the bands run around it. It's for their derailleurs. This one up here, if you look closely, focus on it. There we go. The lines run along it. So it is different housing. I don't know how much it really matters, frankly, at this point. In bike manufacturing, it's all pretty good Teflon coated stuff. But either way, you do want to use the brake housing and then the brake housing for brakes, derailleur housing. Go ahead and start getting that cut off. There are really nice so this front one, I'm gonna remove that. See if this is a 10. I think it's normally maybe an 8. These guys are pretty simple, at least. Okay. And because these are what's called center pole brakes, this whole chunk right here, it's awkward to get in. Dude, there's not a cable crank on this. What the hell happened to this leg? So, the end of this, to keep them from fraying, which I'll show you on the rear derailleur one, looks nasty. That's all little metal wires that are braided together. They can come loose over time. So you put what's called a cable crimp on the end, just like a little cover on it, to cinch it down so you don't get poked by the sharp metal. That's not it. Those are like, my job to give them away because they're so cheap. But this guy's the center pole. So what happens is your cable goes through a little hole back here, cinches down into that, and this guy holds onto this wire running across right there. I tend to like the center pole like this a little more. Other ones, for one thing, this part tightens separately. I think they're a lot easier to adjust. But this cable is a big point of failure too. It should be fine, but it is just one cable that could fail. Okay. But these, very important, hold on to them. They're also, tend to find a lot of these at like lots. Used bike shops is a tricky term. Some places a used bike shop is a bunch of really old stuff like this that people donate and they're real cheap. And then there are used bike shops that are fancy. There's crap everywhere. They'll have some. So I didn't even have to actually cut this one. Now, the way these brakes work, there is a piece that is threaded right down into here. There's a little spot in there that catches. There we go. Here's our cabling. Little nubbin right here. So I'm gonna make sure to hold on to the nubbin. But again, save the cabling because you can bring this to the bike shop to get the exact length. You do not want to sit there trying to guess the length. In here, can you see it better than I thought? This can just push through. Right down in there. A little spot that's designed to grab a hold. Right. And honestly, I've always found it to be just kind of guess and check. Do what you can to get it to push through. There we go. Oh, this has a nice little hole. There we go. So this little doohickey on the end of the line, that's what stops the whole line from pulling through. And for me, I feed it through that hole, and it's able to catch on that little doohickey right in the middle there. And it keeps the line from going all the way. But push this through, pull that out of the way. You don't have to bring this whole thing to the store, but you do need to know what style end you have. Old brakes can have varied ones. I believe this is the most common. The Twin on the Wall had a different style, which was a pain. I think we actually ended up. Actually, no, it was the shifters were weird. The shifters, we ended up just using a modern one. Anyway. Exactly what it had before. Same thing for a rear brake. In this one, you can really see why you crimp the end of a line. You don't want that. You do not want a bunch of little metal, slightly rusty wires poking out into nowhere. This whole thing is actually so unwound, I'm going to have to cut it. It's not going to be able to get through that bolt either. So, that's fine. Let's see if this works. He really only wants to cut copper. Yeah. Yup. Alright, well, he's not gonna do. Yeah. Ooh. Come on. I heard you cut through. I am gonna get the proper tool. Amazon fucked up. It's not actually gonna be here today. I need to run over to the bike shop while it's open. This might not work though. Who the hell built this bike? I swear this feels like it came along from the back. No reason the factory should be shipping a bike like this. How crippling yet. And the bottom bracket that was that poorly adjusted. I think at this point I'm just going to have to bring the whole bike down to the shop because my cable clippers didn't arrive today and I need to bring the rear wheel in to get the set up anyway. I'm just going to bring the whole bundle down and I'll bring everything back here to fix it up. I have to do the bike, but so far coming along really nice. Bottom bracket cleaned up great. One little potential spot that you can see, just that wobble. Hopefully very nice. Head tube is nice when it's not rubbing on the table. Front wheel came along great. A lot of stuff cleaned up. At this point, all the cabling stuff is kind of smaller jumps. Let's see. Try to get the stuff to do that tomorrow. But I think that's it for today. Thanks for coming by. Thank you, whoever is coming in and watching the VODs. It's really cool to see that people are actually watching the VODs. And hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, you can feel free to just message me too.